Does God exist? Or is the material universe all that is, or ever was, or ever will be?
Are those the only two options?
One approach to answering this question is the cosmological argument.
But unfortunately, it's not a very good one. Admittedly, there's no shortage of videos about
the Kalam Cosmological Argument.
The Kalam Cosmological Argument.
The Kalam Argument.
The Kalam Cosmological Argument.
Cosmological Argument debunked.
and the reasons why it doesn't work as intended. But it seems nearly every day a Christian brings it up to me in comments or social media or even in person. And in the famous words of Inigo Montoya,
I don't think it means what you think it means.
since my viewers have asked me to cover more William Lane Craig, and he's the man responsible for its current popularity, let's take a look at the version from Craig's Reasonable Faith Ministry.
It goes like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
The first thing worth noting is that this is the entire argument, and yet the word God appears nowhere. For the sake of discussion, I could accept the entire thing as is, and all we would have to agree to is that there was a sufficient cause for the universe. To make the leap that this cause is a deity is entirely outside of the scope of the cosmological argument, and does not follow from the premises. Let's say someone emerged from a crowd to lay claim to the throne based on their royal lineage.
Prove that you are the son of the king.
Every human who was born has parents.
This is true.
I was born.
Also true.
Therefore, I have parents.
But that doesn't mean your father was the king.
Nonsense. Hand me the crown.
So even if the Kalam succeeds, it ultimately fails. But still, let's let Craig take a closer look.
Is the first premise true? Let's consider. Believing that something can pop into existence without a cause is more of a stretch than believing in magic. At least with magic, you've got a hat and a magician.
Did Craig just admit that a good analogy for God would be a magician? Interesting. If we're going to evaluate the truth of the first premise, we might first consider defining terms. What does it mean to begin to exist? For example, when does a chair begin to exist? Is it when the plans are drawn up? When the wood is cut? When the pieces are assembled? The first time someone sits on it? In fact, perhaps we would be better off reworking the entire argument. Premise 1. Everything that begins to exist is a rearrangement of things that already exist. Premise 2. The universe began to exist. Conclusion. The universe is a rearrangement of things that already exist. That is equally as valid as the Kalam, and brings us to the conclusion that our universe came not from nothing, but from something pre-existing, which we'll get to later. As for a cause, well, in order for a cause and effect to have relevance, it's clear that one would need to have time as well. Cause must come temporally before effect. If we try to extend this premise beyond time as we know it, then we'd be in a realm where there might not be causation as we know it. Outside the scope of our universe, we can't know if this premise holds.
But what about our second premise? Did the universe begin, or has it always existed? Atheists have typically said that the universe has been here forever.
Again, it's important to understand terms. In this case, the difference between universe and cosmos, as they are used in science, since that's where the discussion will be going. The cosmos, as the late great Carl Sagan put it,
the cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be.
Whereas the universe is best defined as the single instantiation of space-time where we live. The universe is part of the cosmos, like a storage unit is part of a storage facility. And we have no way of knowing if we are merely one among many universes, or one in a succession of universes, or maybe the only universe. What's important is that modern cosmologists don't say that the universe has been here forever and is just there and that's all, as Craig asserts. That's how they would describe the cosmos. In science, cosmos and universe are not interchangeable terms. Craig's video goes on to appeal to science's acceptance of the Big Bang Theory to establish that the universe had a beginning. As long as Craig sticks to the scientific definition of universe and doesn't pretend that it's the same as the cosmos, then we can skip that part and all just agree. Oh, wait.
First, let's consider the second law of thermodynamics. It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy.
I'm going to want to talk about the first law of thermodynamics, so it's good that Craig affirms the second law. Carry on.
It's quite plausible then that both premises of the argument are true. This means that the conclusion is also true. The universe has a cause.
Right. The argument concludes that the universe has a sufficient cause. Still no discussion of God, and the video is almost over.
And since the universe can't cause itself, its cause must be beyond the space-time universe.
So far, so good.
It must be spaceless.
Whoa! We went over the rails right on the first one. Craig himself describes our universe as the space-time universe. The Big Bang was the start of our universe's local space coordinates, x, y, and z, and time, t. But just as a piece of graph paper has its own localized XY spatial coordinate system, that piece of paper still exists in the universe's three-dimensional space. The cosmos may well have its own spatial dimensions. It may have many more dimensions than our 4, or perhaps it could have even 0 dimensions. The point is, there could be any number of sufficient causes for our universe that exist in some semblance of space outside of our version of it. The cause needn't be spaceless.
Timeless?
What applied to the 3 dimensions of space equally applies to the 4th dimension of time. A stopwatch has its own temporal system, but the one pressing the start button still exists in their own temporal system. The cosmos may have its own system of time, or it may exist in such a state that the idea of time is incoherent. We don't yet know what the sufficient cause of the universe was, but it could easily have been temporal.
Immaterial?
This is getting repetitive, but there's no reason to assert that the cause couldn't have been a material manifestation. Scientists don't think that the Big Bang was from nothing, but rather the expansion of a singularity containing all of our universe's matter and energy. Whatever was happening inside that singularity would certainly have been material as we know it. Earlier, Craig appealed to the second law of thermodynamics, but let's talk about the first law. Energy can be transformed, but it cannot be created nor destroyed. If this law holds, we need not appeal to a god to deal with infinite regress. Our eternal constant is energy. If energy has always existed, then it follows naturally that any existing universes could be a mere transformation of a part of that energy. This is my personal cosmology, that if something has to exist eternally, that thing is energy. The advantage of choosing energy over positing an eternal God is that we all agree that energy is a real thing.
Uncaused.
The cause of our universe could easily have been a caused thing. Perhaps our universe was caused by a quantum fluctuation, by the end of a prior universe, by the flapping of wings of a cosmic butterfly. The Kalam argues only for a sufficient cause of our particular universe. If something has to be uncaused, let's go with energy.
And unimaginably powerful.
One last time, the Kalam argues only for a sufficient cause. An avalanche can be caused by the slip of a single pebble. There's no reason the cause of our universe needs to be anything more than adequate.
Much like God. The cosmological argument shows that, in fact, it is quite reasonable to believe that God does exist.
All the cosmological argument does is point toward a cause, but tells us nothing about that cause. When the argument is said and done, we are left asking, what caused the universe? Craig says God, and others more honestly say, we don't know. If you think that we don't know automatically equals God, then how is your thinking any different than those who decided that lightning came from Zeus? The only honest answer in all of this is something caused the universe, but we don't know what it was. The Kalam Cosmological Argument says nothing about God. If you enjoyed this video, and you want to stay up to date as I take on more from William Lane Craig and other creationists and theologians, why not click on that subscribe button and the notification bell? Thanks to my patrons, thanks for watching, and until next time, later.